Whenever someone screams that AI is taking over, my brain immediately conjures up an image of my editing timeline actually packing a tiny suitcase. It's like my professional life is suddenly about to walk out to the door with a little do not disturb sign hanging on it. As an editor who makes a living in the timeline, I hear that grim editors are doomed take way too often these days. I totally get why people feel that surge of anxiety about the future of creative work. But after digging deep, I found a much more useful way to look at this whole AI situation. The core truth I've landed on is that AI isn't meant to replace us entirely, which is a huge relief. Instead, think of it as gaining an insanely helpful, tireless assistant who loves the boring parts of the job. It handles the repetitive, tedious tasks so that we finally have the headspace to focus on being truly creative. Honestly, having an AI handle the grunt work just feels like an undeniable win for my creative output. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a bunch of tools I use daily, both built into Adobe and external options. We will see exactly how these new capabilities fit into a sensible, modern editing workflow. Spoiler alert, I will be leaning heavily on a tool called Vizard, because it's a genuine game changer for social clipping. But don't worry, I promise I won't be suspiciously glowing about every single feature on this list. I'll make sure to call out the real-world limitations clearly whenever they pop up. Let's kick things off with color correction and grading, because that's often where the real-time syncs begin. Let's be completely real, color work is an entirely separate craft that takes years to master. Being a fantastic editor doesn't automatically grant you the skills of a seasoned colorist. Thankfully, there are now smart tools that can cover all those necessary basics in seconds. Open up the professional editing software, navigate over to that dedicated color tab for immediate access. Once there, simply hit the auto button within the basic color correction section. The built-in intelligence will analyze the clip and make it look instantly sane and balanced with just one click. For many clips that will look flat or wonky, this simple step gets you 80% of the way to a usable grade. You absolutely have the power to dial back the intensity if the automated look feels too processed. You can even go in and manually tweak individual parameters like exposure or contrast if needed. After that initial auto fix, you can move on to stylizing the look using your favorite pre-made LUTs. But what if you just cannot find that perfect LUT to capture the exact mood you are chasing? That's where a tool like text-to-color grade feature becomes completely wild to use. You literally just type out the vibe you want, like moody cinematic film noir, and it spits out a grade. That ability to generate complex color profiles from simple text prompts is genuinely incredible, right? However, here is the crucial kicker you need to remember about all auto grades. Those AI-generated colors can often end up looking very generic if you are trying to achieve a truly unique visual signature. That is precisely the moment where the experienced human eye and taste still matter the most. Auto tools are fantastic for rapidly speeding up the initial setup phase of your look. They give you excellent time-saving starting points for almost any shot you work on. But the final, distinctive flavor of your film almost always requires that final human touch. Time for a quick food delivery break and a major public service announcement for efficiency. If you spend any significant amount of time editing talking heads or long interviews, text-based editing will fundamentally change your life. Premiere Pro finally added proper built-in transcription that is now out of beta, thank goodness. The resulting transcript appears clearly organized within the text panel interface. This feature allows you to edit the video content just like you would edit a standard text document. You can easily cut out distracting filler words like and with a single backspace command. It also makes finding those absolute best soundbites incredibly fast for assembling your narrative. Personally, I prefer keeping my main clip on the timeline and using the text panel primarily to prune the content. The major advantage here is that any text edit you make reflects instantly on the main timeline. That instantaneous visual feedback on the timeline feels much more tangible and controllable. Even with this great tech, transcription is definitely not perfect every single time. You will inevitably still have to go back and manually fix misspellings of names or niche acronyms. Weird accents or mumbled lines can also confuse the AI system from time to time. Now, when you are focused on cleaning up those awkward pauses between sentences, a new plugin is essential. I'm talking about the Autocut plugin, which will automatically detect and remove long silences for you. This tool gives you fine-grained control over parameters like minimum silence length and noise thresholds. There's also a special AI Autocut mode that just nukes every single pause without you having to set levels. This automated silence removal is absolutely perfect for getting a solid first pass edit very quickly. Here is a tiny but important caveat. Autocut is not available for free forever. You can either grab a monthly subscription or commit to buying a single lifetime license if you like it. The main takeaway is, use Autocut in tandem with text-based editing to cut a rough draft faster than that free slice of pizza disappears on set. Now, this is where the conversation shifts and Vizard becomes particularly interesting in the grand scheme. Most of the tools we just covered solve one very specific problem, like color or masking or audio timing. But when your main job is turning hours of long-form content into consistent, high-performing short clips across all social platforms, the workflow turns into a chaotic juggling act. I used to spend agonizing hours just trying to manually find the good bits in my footage. Then came the process of chopping them, reformatting aspect ratios, adding captions, and scheduling each one. Vizard steps in to automate the absolute heaviest lifting required for this entire process. It can intelligently find the most potentially viral segments hidden within your long videos automatically. It then formats those selections into ready-to-post clips that fit the required aspect ratios. Crucially, it can even auto-schedule those clips so your social channels keep feeding content without you babysitting every single post. I'm definitely not suggesting it does everything perfectly right out of the box. You will still want to go in later to tweak the tone, punch up a timing, or adjust a key punchline. However, this automation reduces the tedious grunt work associated with repurposing by a massive amount. Compared to those other generic auto editor websites, Vizard actually nails the moment selection much better. Those generic sites often just spit out boring single-take reels that lack impact. Vizard actively looks for structural engagement signals within the video, not just cutting based on silence. This smarter selection process results in significantly better performing content, in my experience. This doesn't mean you should drop everything and never open Premiere Pro again, though. The smart workflow is using Vizard to surface the absolute best nuggets of content first. Then, you take those clips into Premiere for a final polish if you need that complete creative control. Maybe you want to throw a custom grade on it, tighten up the final sound mix, or add a unique motion graphic. The core benefit is that you stop wasting hours just mindlessly scrubbing footage looking for that one golden 12-second clip. Shifting gears slightly to visuals, let's talk about handling backgrounds and masking elements. Runway's dedicated background remover tool is incredibly dope for quick jobs. It's perfect if you just want to quickly plop text or graphics behind a talking subject instantly. But if you live deep within the Adobe ecosystem, Rotobrush 2 in After Effects remains the reigning champion for detailed work. Rotobrush 2 behaves somewhat like the quick selection tool you know from Photoshop's interface. You basically just paint a rough selection over the subject you want to isolate. Then you hit the play button, and After Effects intelligently tracks that selection frame by frame automatically. I have to admit, the tracking can sometimes go a little nuts on a few particularly complex frames. The great thing is, you can stop the process, manually fix just that tricky frame, and let it propagate the correction forward. Features like Refine Edge and Motion Blur options are essential for smoothing out tricky areas like flyaway hair. Once you have a perfectly clean rotoscope subject isolated in AE, you can leverage Photoshop for stills. Photoshop's Generative Fill feature can then be used to seamlessly extend or completely replace backgrounds in those static images. This is super handy when you need polished promo images or unique thumbnail graphics that match your video. Music selection is another massive area where AI can either save your entire project or give it some truly weird, soulless vibes. Tools like SoundRaw are excellent for generating completely custom music based on your specific mood, genre, and exact required length. This is absolutely fantastic when you need a unique, bespoke track that matches your edit's timing perfectly. But what if you specifically want music created by actual human composers? In that case, Upbeat.io curates entire playlists created by real musicians, using AI only to surface the right tracks for your query. Both of these options serve a vital place in a modern editor's toolkit, depending on the need. SoundRaw shines when you absolutely need something bespoke and lightning fast for background texture. Upbeat is far better when you require the deep nuance and emotional feel only a human composer can deliver. Never forget about the native tools already inside your editor, like Premiere's Remix feature. This AI-powered tool cleverly stretches or shrinks an existing song to match your exact edit length flawlessly. It ensures your musical transitions and loops feel completely natural, avoiding awkward, abrupt cuts. This feature is super handy for quickly setting up intros or ensuring background tracks loop perfectly underneath narration. Look, tools like Runway, Autocut, SoundRaw, and Upbeat are all genuinely useful for specific jobs. However, the real downside of the current creative software ecosystem is that most of us end up with a huge stack of monthly subscriptions. Each new tool solves one little problem and then immediately asks you to pay a recurring monthly fee for access. Furthermore, many of those full auto editor websites produce clips that feel incredibly generic and soulless to watch. They often prioritize following a rigid structure over respecting the actual creative intent of the footage. This is why I really favor pairing Vizard's efficiency with the precision of other tools. Vizard finds and creates the raw, engaging short clips, and then it handles the scheduling overhead. Then, I use Premiere and After Effects to refine the aesthetic look and smooth out any tricky audio elements. Finally, I use carefully selected soundtrack tools to fill in all the necessary emotional beats for the audience. This hybrid approach means we keep ultimate creative control right where it belongs, in our own hands. But we simultaneously free up all that time previously spent on the most time-consuming, thankless tasks. Let's quickly run through a few hyper-practical tips for putting this hybrid system into action this week. Tip number 1 is simple. Always run your entire long-form video through Vizard first to get a ready deck of potential clips. Tip 2 involves batch processing. Polish only the top 10 or 15 performing clips in Premiere. Focus on color, final captions, and a custom sound design pass. Tip number 3 is about consistency. Use Vizard's auto schedule feature or its content calendar to drip content out over weeks. This keeps your channel active and relevant without requiring you to manually post every single day. For tip 4, actively rotate your music sources to avoid a stale soundtrack vibe. Use that amazing human-composed music from Upbeat or deliberately tweak the AI tracks from SoundRaw when the mood needs to be extra unique. Now, for all the creators out there who are genuinely worried about AI taking creative jobs, I completely empathize with the existential dread that comes with major technological shifts. But I want you to think about it this way. AI is excellent at handling the repetitive, tedious tasks that used to completely eat up your entire workday. That means you now have significantly more time available to do the things machines simply cannot replicate. You can focus on crafting a truly unique, recognizable voice for your brand. You can think conceptually about developing entire series arcs and long-term brand identity. You have time to collaborate deeply with other talented humans on creative projects. And most importantly, you have the mental space to push truly bold, forward-thinking, creative decisions. These tools are designed to be powerful amplifiers of your existing skill, not your eventual replacement. One final crucial point for creators focused on scaling their output without entering subscription hell. You must closely examine tooling that successfully consolidates multiple parts of your workflow. Vizard's combination of auto editing, scheduling, and content calendar management means fewer apps to constantly bounce between. This reduces the overall cognitive load required to manage a successful content pipeline. It is certainly not a magic wand that fixes every problem instantly, but for the specific job of turning long content into consistent short-form output, it saves real time and many headaches. Alright, if you enjoyed this rundown of my AI-assisted workflow, do yourself a favor this week. Seriously try using at least one AI assistant specifically for those tedious manual parts of your process. Run one single long video session entirely through Vizard and let it surface all the potential clips for you. Then, take your top 5 favorites and put them into Premiere for a fast, intentional polish pass. You might be genuinely surprised by how much more high-quality content you can actually produce when the busy work is completely out of the way. If you want more deep dives into how I use these tools together for maximum effect, stick around. I can certainly drop dedicated videos covering advanced color tips, tricky masking workflows, or a step-by-step Vizard setup. Until that next video drops, I want you to focus on one thing. Keep creating smarter, not harder, in everything you do. That's the key to sustainable creative success in this new era. Thanks for watching, and with that said, peace out and happy editing, everyone. Let's circle back to that initial Rotobrush fix for a second to add one more layer of detail. After you stop the tracking to correct a bad frame, make sure to use the feather setting to soften that mask edge slightly. Soft edges prevent that hard, cartoonish line from appearing when your subject moves quickly. For music again, when using SoundDraw, try toggling between their simple and complex arrangement settings. The simple setting is fantastic for minimalist background texture that won't distract from your dialogue. The complex setting often adds better dynamic range, great for more emotional, cinematic clips. When you're reviewing your text edit in Premiere, zoom in closely on the timeline to check the audio waveform after you delete text. Ensure the AI didn't accidentally trim too close to the remaining sound, creating an unnerving pop. On the Vizard side, remember to check the generated captions capitalization style before you approve the final output. Sometimes the auto capper defaults to all caps, which can look overly aggressive on certain social platforms. When setting up your color starting point, try applying the auto color correction before you apply any LUTs for the cleanest result. Think of the auto color as your foundation, and the LUTs as the paint you apply on top of that stable base. Finally, if you are ever stuck on finding the right B-roll, just search for cinematic slow motion people thinking or hands typing on laptop bokeh. General visual searches like those will always yield better, more versatile results in stock libraries than niche searches.